The Discovery, Chapter 8, Part 2. David walked back through the country road leading to Midnight's house. Lunch with Celestian Twilight was fun as expected, and they discussed many current events. Things like the elements of harmony and what they were up to, as well as everyone's plans for Heartswarming Eve were major topics of discussion. However, he could not get Celestia's words out of his head.
Have you put any thought into a relationship? Of course I've thought about it. Hell, I've thought about it every day for the last 2 weeks. I mean, fuck, how could I not? It's either find a mare to date or die alone. It's not like that's much of a choice. But after that little fuck up a month ago, who knows how the rest of them could react?
David walked along the worn country road as he closed the distance to Midnight's house. As he closed the last few feet to the door, a final thought popped into his head.
What if I asked Midnight out?
It was enough to make him freeze right before his hand reached the handle.
No, she saved your life, and she's your best friend. You don't want to ruin that, and besides, she hasn't shown any signs of affection to you. At least I don't think she has. She's cuddled with you a bunch, but all ponies do that. Personal space isn't a thing here. She's a very good friend, but asking her out would just ruin it. Besides, can you imagine if you did and she said no? How awkward that would be. There's no way you could still live with her after that. Fuck, this is like dating back in high school. She's really cute though. I just love the way her eyes seem to just shine. The way her soft fur feels on my skin, those lips.
David was torn from his thoughts by a knock on the window next to him. He turned to see Midnight in the window, giving him an amused yet confused look. He quickly shook those thoughts away and pushed them into the far reaches of his mind as he opened the door.
Hey, Mid!
David said with a forced smile and a quickly forming blush.
Hey, what was that about? You were standing there for a few minutes just staring at the doorknob. I was starting to think that you were trying to win a stare down or something. I hate to break it to you, but I think the doorknob was gonna win.
Midnight said, not even trying to hide her giggles from David.
It was nothing. I just got lost in thought was all.
He said, shaking the thoughts from his mind for the time being.
Sure. Anyways, how was the meeting with the princesses? You seemed kinda tired when you left. It was great. Gotta catch up with Twy and Tia, so that was good. Anything exciting going on?
Midnight asked with a cautious tone.
Nah, just normal stuff, I guess. Great! Then that means you have no plans for the night. I guess not? Why, did you have something planned? Yeah, we're going to the Broken Barn Bar in the lower Canterlot district. It just opened a few days ago and I've heard a lot of good things about it. They've got stuff for every pony. Plus, since it's in the lower district, there won't be any snobs or prissy nobles to throw a fit. Well, that actually sounds like a great idea. The lower district was always a bit more friendly. And besides, I haven't had a few drinks in a long time. Might be nice to just drink my troubles away. Pfft, what troubles? Your lazy bum sits around all day eating all my food.
Midnight teased.
Hey, I have to eat to maintain these beautiful guns,
David said, flexing his extremely average muscles. Midnight immediately burst into laughter while David continued to flex. After a few seconds, David couldn't keep it together and joined in with Midnight's infectious laughter.
That's not even how building muscle works! You need to exercise!
Midnight said between giggles.
I'll have you know that my exercise includes raising the food to my mouth with my arm. I'm basically doing curls right there.
David said as he chuckled again.
Alright. You and your guns need the energy. Anyways, so what time do you want to head over there? Whenever you want. I literally have nothing planned tonight. Like, at all. Usually ever. Well, let's go at 7. It shouldn't be too crowded with it being a workday and all. 7 it is. I can't wait. Me either, big guy.
At around 7, David and Midnight walked through the typically busy streets of Canterlot to find them nearly empty. Most ponies either went home already or just started the night shift. Of course, there were still ponies out and about on the streets, but they paid David and Midnight little mind. Even if they didn't see them before, everyone knew about the bipedal alien living with a charcoal unicorn. As they rounded yet another bend in the seemingly never-ending streets of the Canterlot Lower District, David found he was almost out of patience.
Mid, are we lost? This is the 4th dead-end street you've taken us to. I know where it is, David. It's just a little further,
Midnight said with a roll of her eyes. They continued onward, eventually finding the elusive bar. There were drunk ponies already stumbling out of the establishment. Some ponies were already passed out on the side of the street in all manner of awkward positions.
See? Told you we'd find it,
Midnight said with obvious pride in her voice.
Yeah, only took 5 detours and an extra half hour,
David teased.
Hey, better late than never. Come on, let's get in there.
Midnight led the way as David followed into the bar. The intentionally crooked sign covered in neon lights read Broken Barn Bar in a fancy font. As they entered the establishment, they found themselves surrounded by drunk and semi-drunk creatures of all species. On their immediate right, there was an elevated stage, surrounded by large speakers and bathed in warm light. A number of ponies were playing some generic country songs as ponies, griffins, and even a minotaur drunkenly danced on the floor, in the center of the room. Further into the room on the far right side, there were several booths. Some were filled with ponies kissing and drinking together. To the left was the bar itself, in its all rustic wooden glory. There were several stools at the bar, most with ponies barely managing to stay upright as they tried in vain to convince the bartender to give them just one more shot.
So, wanna get a booth while I get drinks?
Midnight asked, struggling to be heard above the music and chatter.
Yeah, sure. I'll see you over there,
David replied as he started making his way past the dance floor. Eventually, David managed to weave his way through the minefield of drunk ponies and reach his destination. He found an empty booth far enough away from the music and dance floor where he could hear better, and sat down, twiddling his thumbs while he waited for Midnight to arrive with the drinks. David took the time while he waited to observe the ponies throughout the room. A couple in the booth next to him were kissing and groping each other very conspicuously, leaving nothing about their plans for the evening to the imagination. The dance floor wasn't completely packed, but there were several ponies enjoying themselves as they clumsily fumbled about in their drunken stupor. It wasn't long before David's thoughts were pulled from his casual observing when Midnight arrived with her drinks and her magical grasp.
Hey, so I wasn't sure how drunk you were planning on getting tonight, so I started us out with some Apple Family hard cider. If you want to get completely trashed, well, they just got about everything you could think of over there,
Midnight said before taking a swig of her cider.
This is fine. I was just planning on getting buzzed anyway. Kinda want to actually make it home, you know?
David replied as he grabbed his mug and took a gulp.
So, I saw you checking out the couple over there. You want in on that?
David choked on his cider and spilled some on the table as he coughed and wheezed oxygen back into his lungs, much to Midnight's amusement.
You do, don't you?
She teased, pointing her hoof at David.
No, I don't even know what you're talking about. I was just looking. It's kind of hard not to. They have no shame.
David replied, finally catching his breath.
Oh, you're cute when you're all flustered, big guy.
Midnight replied with a wink, making David's growing blush deepen.
Thanks, I think. Anyways.
David trailed off.
Anyways?
Midnight replied, motioning for him to continue.
Anyways, how's the weather?
Midnight gave him a deadpan look.
Weather's great. Your conversation skills on the other hoof. Well, we already talk about everything at the house, so I'm kinda out of things to talk about,
David said, looking down into his drink.
Well then, how about instead of talking, we do something?
Midnight replied, excitement once again finding its way into her voice.
What do you mean? Well, there is a dance floor right over there. Yeah, that's gonna be a hard no for me. Oh, come on, David, lighten up a little. Firstly, I can't dance to save my life, and secondly, as the only one of my kind here, I really stand out. That makes doing things like making a fool of myself in front of a bunch of ponies a big deal. Every pony will know about the dumb hairless ape doing some dumb shit at the new bar everyone wants to go to,
David said as he took another swig of his cider.
Alright, firstly, there's no such thing as a bad dancer. Just some pony who hasn't quite figured out the rhythm yet. Secondly, every pony in here is at some level of drunk. Either they aren't going to remember you being here at all, or they will like you more for acting like one of them instead of the strange alien cooped up in my house all the time.
David raised a finger to respond, but found no holes in her logic. He stumbled with his words for a few more seconds before eventually giving up.
Well?
Midnight asked, with an expectant look in her eyes. David sighed deeply.
Fine, but I'm going to need a lot of these before I even consider going on there and making a fool out of myself,
David said, before chugging the rest of his cider.
They're on me, big guy. You've got yourself a deal,
Midnight said, as she hopped out of the booth to get more cider for David. 5% of me is thinking a bar fight's gonna happen, and then the other 95%? I don't know. Dude can be completely fine when he gets back home, or he can have an accidental vasectomy. Anyways, let's get on to our probably sober donators. Top donators: Cat-gjf, Zar630, Jayton Man, Only One Thing, Ceru Orion, and Iron Sky. Darkside, Raiden, Narwhals, Black Moon, Heart, Pastel Skies, Austin Roland, Stu Hex, Swordbrother and Mortred, Omicron Lyre, Will, Chris, Twinkie, Ridesoul, Badass Waffle, Shadow Moon, Luigi88, Chancellor Crust, Big Smoke 369, and many more awesome people. Thank you all so much for watching this video and live life to the fullest.